Right now on Colorado Point of View, we are your local election headquarters, and this morning we are digging deeper into the race for Secretary of State. The Republican at the top of the ballot, Tina Peters, indicted in an election breach investigation.
I want to restore the trust and put an end to government overreach in our election process.
And arrested on charges that she kicked a cop, all caught on camera.
Arrest without cause.
I talk with Peters one-on-one about the controversy surrounding her run for Secretary of State. Plus, the two other Republicans on the ballot join me in studio with their Colorado Point of View. That and more right here, right now on Colorado Point of View. Hey, very good morning to you. I'm Matt Morrow, and this is Colorado Point of View. We are now just about 1 month away from the primary election, and a race that normally does not get much attention this year is getting an awful lot. In fact, this may be the most heated race for Secretary of State in the entire nation, and certainly the most contentious Colorado has ever seen. Take a look right here. These are the three Republicans running in the primary who want to be in charge of the state's elections office. And this year, election security is the big issue, in part thanks to one of the candidates, the one at the top of the ballot. Tina Peters is the Mesa County Clerk and Recorder. She has also been indicted by a grand jury and now faces 10 charges, including 7 felonies, as part of a big election security investigation. Plus, a judge has barred her from overseeing her county's elections this year. Plus, Peters, two other Republicans, Pam Anderson and Mike O'Donnell, are looking to defeat Democrat Jena Griswold come November, and Griswold got a big win at the state capitol just a couple of weeks ago. Lawmakers passed an election security bill that she was a big supporter of. It'll provide more money to increase security near voting equipment and election systems, and Griswold says this is in direct response to the allegations against Ms. Peters. Listen.
I don't think we were thinking about insider threats before Mesa. We have lots of safeguards, but the idea that someone elected to uphold elections would try to destroy from within was shocking.
We invited Secretary of State Jena Griswold to be on today's program, but her campaign declined. And this morning, all three Republican candidates for Secretary of State are here with me right here on Colorado Point of View. We begin with the Mesa County Clerk, Tina Peters, who again will be at the top of the ballot. Tina Peters, good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. You are no doubt controversial in this race. I don't think there's any question about that. The head of the state GOP, Kristi Burton Brown, recently said that basically any Republican who is under indictment from a Republican DA should hold off on being in the race until that is cleared up. To be clear, you have not gone to trial just yet, and you're right now barred from overseeing the election in Mesa County, one of your main jobs. Why should people vote for you, and why are you staying in this race?
I'm the only one that Jena Griswold is afraid of, and she should be, because the things that she has done violates federal and state law. She should be arrested for the things that she's done.
What has she done, and what proof do you have of her doing this?
This is the first time that an elected official can actually take over and remove another elected official. Our legislature and our Colorado Revised statutes provides a remedy if someone is unfit to hold office, and that is a recall. And she's basically circumventing the process whereby we remove an elected official, because she's afraid. She's afraid of what we've found. So by pointing the finger at me, it takes the light off of her.
We should point out that a judge also agreed with her investigation, a judge in Mesa County, and said that you should not be in charge of the election this year. What do you think you found in everything you've done in the last couple of years, looking at the voting systems in Mesa County? I see you have some of the documents, some of the reports there that I believe your council had prepared for you.
That's correct. Well, actually, the reports have been prepared by very brilliant cyber experts that have thwarted terrorist attacks, Harvard graduates and professors, people that know computers. And as you know, if there's a computer, it can be hacked. And that's what is the case. And let me just point out, too, that an indictment is an accusation.
Correct.
Okay? It's not a conviction. And so by taking putting the light on me keeps the light from shining on Jena Griswold, who has violated, like I said, has felony indictments that should be brought against her.
Okay, in the report right there, in fact, the DA, Dan Rubenstein, presented Thursday morning to the Mesa County Commissioners. It was prepared for you. It basically claims that you found evidence of, quote, potentially unauthorized and illegal manipulation of tabulated vote data in 2021, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, just this week, the district attorney presented this to the county commission. Take a look.
I am closing out this investigation as there is no evidence of any criminal activity. We do not even have probable cause of criminal activity.
He basically says the evidence that you say is in there, the DA, who is also a Republican, calls it fraud. How do you respond to this?
Well, Dan Rubenstein is a never Trumper. Merrick Garland was involved in the very beginning. So Merrick Garland, the Joe Biden's Department of Justice head, came to Mesa County immediately when it was discovered that I had uncovered these election irregularities. So I have to ask you, Matt, why would the head of the DOJ in the United States come and shine and pay this much attention to a county clerk and recorder if there wasn't a there, which we have uncovered? So, you know, and my attorneys, when they read the indictment the other day, Harvey Steinberg, and I've got the best attorneys, and they just laughed. They said, "Are you kidding? This is a political maneuver to shine the light on me, to keep me from running against and defeating Jena Griswold."
Do you believe there was enough fraud in the 2020 election, either nationally and here in Colorado, that would have changed the results?
You know, it's interesting. I did not, because we're a very conservative county in Mesa County, I did not believe that Mesa County had irregularities in the election during the 2020. I thought, you know, it could be in some other parts of the United States, but not Mesa County. I had what we call drank the Kool-Aid. I'd been told that there were not, that these systems were not able to be connected to the internet. We found out that there were 36 wireless devices. These machines are manufactured in China and assembled in Mexico. We also found that there was unauthorized software that actually can flip votes. Unfortunately, it also has the creators of the code actually put in a self-deleting algorithm that deletes the evidence, and just 29,000 election records. And so the Secretary of State would argue that those aren't election records. Well, yes, they are. According to CCR 8-1505-20-19.1 and 2, it says, first of all, that election equipment cannot be connected to the internet. It has to be in a standalone fashion.
Correct.
Number two, it says access and audit logs must be preserved, and that's exactly what they deleted. And those are logs that prove the results of the election. So we just don't want to back up the results of the election. We want to back up how you got to that total, and those were deleted. And then the third thing is, it says in that same statute that I am able and I can do that in whatever fashion that I deem most suitable. So I'm the elected clerk. The people elected me in my county to preserve their election records, and that's exactly what I did.
Okay. Again, for his part, the DA, Dan Rubenstein, says that some of those accusations and the allegations there, he found no evidence of it. So bottom line, you believe Colorado's election system, the mail-in voting, is safe and secure?
I used to. I don't now. No.
What about nationally?
Well, I'm one of 20 America First Secretary of State candidates across the country, and we're finding similarities with how other Secretary of States that don't agree with this are treating anyone that disagrees with their assertions that the elections were free and fair and the most secure in history. And they're being persecuted like I am. So, I don't even have a parking ticket. I don't even have a speeding ticket. I was married for 36 years. Business owner for 32 of those years. So why all of a sudden am I the villain that they're trying to make me out to be? It's because they're trying to hide something, Matt.
Just going back to the accusations that maybe Colorado's election system, as you say, isn't as secure as some people say it is. Go back to 2018, 0.0027% of ballots that were cast, about 2.5 million, were referred to the AG's office for a fraud investigation. Less than 1% in 2018 and 2016. 2016, the presidential election, were rejected by county clerks, both Democrat and Republican, around the state. Wouldn't that appear to say that from that regard and the law enforcement and the Secretary of State perspective that the elections are safe and secure?
It would appear. And I believed all that. I had what we call drank the Kool-Aid. I believed everything I was told about the elections, that they were the gold standard. But no one has addressed looking into the machines to see what has been happening by these vendors, by this vendor that manufactures the machines and what goes on. It's been a mystery box, a mystery black box, and this is the first time that these have been revealed.
All right, last question before we go. Let's say you win. You win the primary, you win the general election come November. With the allegations of fraud and the allegations that the voting system in Colorado isn't all that safe and secure, how can people believe that your results would be valid?
Well, because I want to make everything transparent. First of all, I want to have anti-counterfeit ballots. You know, your $1 bill in your wallet is made so that no one can counterfeit it, right? It has a serial number. It's printed on special paper. Why aren't our ballots? Why are they so easily duplicated? Why can someone put through these tabulators a ballot more than once, which you saw with Ruby Freeman, how she was loading up the same ballots over and over and over through the tabulators. So, you know, I'd like to get rid of the machines. At the very least, the machines need to be audited. They need to be accessed to make sure that things are done fairly for the voters. And I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, unaffiliated, everyone's vote should count for who they voted for. And that's what I'll make sure that we do.
All right, one more last question real quickly. You have 3 ethics investigations by the Colorado Independent Ethics Committee right now. One of them, the most recent, they gave subpoena power to one of the investigators just this week and said basically that you have not reported correctly some money to a legal defense fund that your friend Mike Lindell supposedly donated, as he said, up to $800,000 to. Are any of those allegations, any ethics complaints true, and why aren't some of the names associated with the money in the legal defense fund account?
Okay, so this is a good example of the legal lawfare that's going on because I'm such a threat to the Democrat Jena Griswold.
Even though it's an independent ethics commission, one that also took a hit on former governor and now Colorado Senator John Hickenlooper.
Well, you know, these are all tactics to discredit me. And, you know, when you see an atheist, you know, these type of people that are totally opposed to me in that, I mean, you can be accused of anything. It's what they're able to prove. And I guarantee you, I don't know Mr. Lindell. He's a great patriot. I do not know his finances. I know he supports a lot of people across the country in election integrity. And so what his finances are, I have no idea. But, you know, they can bring whatever they want to try to discolor me in the minds of the voters. But it's ultimately up to the voters to decide. And, you know, the reason I ran for office was I looked at the choices that we had. I looked at Soros operative Jena Griswold on one hand, and then I looked at Pam Anderson, who is the director of CTCL, which is Center for Tech and Civic Life. And people can look it up, techandciviclife.org. She's listed as a director. And after I outed her, she basically said that, that she's on temporary leave. That is the organization that funneled $470 million through to defeat Republican candidates. 96% went to counties and municipalities that Biden won.
On that note, unfortunately, we're out of time. Pam Anderson, I am going to talk with her next and talk with her about that. Tina Peters, candidate for Secretary of State, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. As you know, Peters and the other Republicans, Pam Anderson and Mike O'Donnell, are looking to defeat the Democrat Jena Griswold in November. I talk with these 2 candidates, Mike O'Donnell and Pam Anderson, next and get their Colorado point of view. Stay there. We are back at your local election headquarters, and this morning I'm talking with all of the Republicans in a very heated race for Secretary of State. One of those candidates says he wants to appeal to people in the middle. This is the businessman who has a small farm now in Yuma County, Mike O'Donnell. Mike, good morning. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good morning.
This is a controversial and a heated race. Why in the world do you want to be in it?
That's a really good question. You can probably tell from my accent that I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen. I've been here now for 34 years. And all of that time, I've been working with small businesses, communities, and economic development type activities, creating things to help businesses grow and add jobs in their community. A lot of people don't realize the Secretary of State has two roles here in Colorado. One is to enhance commerce, which they haven't really done in my living memory. And of course, there's election integrity. The office is a business office. It's not a political office. And as a business person, I'm hoping to bring that back to the office and make it a business office again.
There is no doubt that you have a lot of business experience, particularly with small businesses and helping them grow. But when it comes to election administration experience, which right now is kind of at the heart of this job that so many people are talking about with disinformation and fraud and so on and so forth, how can you tell people that you're ready for that part of this job when they ask questions about that?
Yes, I think that the question is that the heart of the issues with the election actually really boil down to the voter roll. And here in Colorado, I agree with the Judicial Watch approach, which is actually suing the Secretary of State to clean up the voter roll. So as someone who's an interested business person, I purchased, like anyone can, a copy of the voter roll, and I've been reviewing it to see if there's anything that pop out at me, the same way that I might review financial statements for business. And I see that we have lots of issues with our voter roll. I think that a lot of the concerns that the citizens of Colorado have or don't have can really be addressed by ensuring that we make sure that eligible Colorado voters who are citizens get the opportunity to vote here in our state.
On those voter rolls, you have called them, and I quote here, very dirty. What proof do you have of that? And is any of what you say you find that's very dirty actually changing the course of an election and some of these people who maybe aren't registered to vote are actually voting?
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's changing. And again, I'm just looking for observations. There was legislation introduced in Colorado in 2019, which is the automatic voter registration, the opt-out process of voter registration. That is increasing the voter roll by 2, 3, 4 times faster than the population here in Colorado. And when you have issues like that that are more administrative, they, I think, can be addressed. You know, we have people are automatically added to the voter roll, and then the poor old county clerks are put upon to then write to those people, send them a stamp-addressed envelope, say, do you want to stay on the voter roll? And then if they don't hear back, they're automatically added to the voter roll. I see on the voter roll many, many instances of whether they're, and I'm primarily looking at the low-hanging fruit, where there's 8 or more adult active voters in a house who have different last names. And it's easy for me to see that perhaps the Smiths and the Jones live in that house. I can look at the appraiser's office sometimes and see, hey, the Smiths actually bought the house 2 years ago, so it's very possible that the Joneses aren't there. But again, because of our laws in Colorado, unless the Joneses actually write to the county clerk and tell them that they've been removed, they'll stay on that roll, and all of those ballots will continue to go to that house. Now, what happens to those ballots is another thing. But again, I'm not saying that there's any issues, but I think if we can clean up the voter roll, I think that we as citizens of Colorado can feel comfortable or more comfortable that everyone's eligible votes are actually being counted.
Very quickly, yes or no, is Colorado's mail-in ballot system safe and secure right now?
It's safe and secure if our voter roll is cleaned up. So at the present time, I don't think the voter roll is clean enough. But in terms of ballots, mailing out to people, I have some other issues. I'd be happy to talk with you about that. But again, no technology is perfect. Sometimes the post office loses letters. Sometimes the letters don't go back if they're mailed back. But it's as good as we can get. But there are issues. We send out ballots to people who don't exist. And that's a problem from my perspective.
And we should be clear, there are only 6 cases in the past 10 or so years where people have been charged and convicted of election fraud. Businessman Mike O'Donnell, candidate for Secretary of State. Thanks for being here this morning. I appreciate it. Best of luck with the campaign. Now that we're talking about the campaign and Secretary of State, these are things you need to remember. Right now, you still have time to register to vote. Ballots go out on June 6th. That is when they are mailed to all eligible voters here in Colorado. June 20th, polling centers must open. That is by state law. Primary election day is coming up on June 28th. It'll be here before you know it. All ballots must be received, of course, by 7 o'clock that night. One candidate who is very familiar with the voting process, former Jefferson County Clerk and Recorder and the former head of the Colorado County Clerks Association, Pam Anderson. Pam, good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Why do you want to be in this race?
Well, you know, as a former election official, Jefferson County Clerk and Recorder and municipal clerk, I also was a small business owner, and I worked with local election officials, and I saw a disturbing trend in 2018 where politicians and candidates, and in some cases county clerks, were using the office with hyperpartisan rhetoric and eroding the confidence of the process. We've worked very hard here in Colorado to build a verifiable system. There's still work to do, but I think that sort of partisanship is not a good thing for us.
You recently told Politico, on that note of partisanship, I would avoid any activity that would give the perception that I could not be fair. You have talked about trying to go after the misinformation from the 2020 election. Hasn't that delved into the world of politics right now?
Yeah, you know, I don't think it would be a shock to anyone that politics isn't always, you know, completely straightforward. But the Secretary of State's office, the local election officials, those jobs need to be the fair referee. It needs to be clear of that hyperpartisan rhetoric. My record as the Jefferson County Clerk and Recorder, I never did endorsements. I didn't use the office or the platform to elevate my political profile like my opponent in November is, to raise lots of money, millions of dollars with clickbait. You need to be the responsible and fair referee.
Now, you're facing some criticism right now. Tina Peters talked about this a few minutes ago, so I want to give you a chance to respond. For being on the board of a 501c3 called the CTCL. It's a Center for Tech and Civic Life. It's taken a lot of donations, in particular by Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, including giving $350 million to election offices to basically help to get out the vote. Some people say that is a progressive group, a liberal group, and that being on the board of that in and of itself is partisan. How do you respond?
I dispute that, and I actually believe that conservatives should go to the table with these nonpartisan boards and serve with their perspective. I'm the only candidate in this race that is a certified election official with a history of real voting integrity. I have served on many boards where I brought my expertise, fought for local election officials for the integrity of the process and access to the appropriate resources that they need to improve elections, both here in Colorado, but across the country. I don't know Mark Zuckerberg, never met him. It's a volunteer position, but I will continue to fight for Colorado voters and local election officials.
If you were elected Secretary of State in the primary and then ultimately in the November general election, would you take money from that group to help get the vote out here in Colorado if they offered it?
I think that private funding of elections is not the solution. We need to keep elections local. What I will fight for is full funding of public funding. And we have seen leadership here in Colorado that isn't doing it. They push down mandates, whether or not it's from the federal level or from the state government, and put it on the local election officials without fully funding it. That creates risk in our elections, and I will fight for full public funding.
Recently, delegates at the state assembly for the GOP said they wanted to get rid of Colorado's mail-in voting system. Do you agree with them?
I disagree with that. Look, here in Colorado, we've built a system where we mail you a ballot, but the choice is at the voter. We have a hybrid system. It's a misconception. Voters can receive their ballot, take their time, do their research, do it at the comfort of their own home, or they can go to a vote center anywhere in their jurisdiction and vote in person. I wouldn't remove a voter's choice and access to their constitutional right. The purpose is to secure the validation of that process, and we have processes here that do that.
All right. Pam Anderson, candidate for Secretary of State, former Jeffco County Clerk and Recorder. Pam, thank you so much for being here this morning. I appreciate it.
Me.
We'll be right back. Stay there.